Welcome to episode number 300 of the Sales Hunter podcast. Can you believe that? Episode 300. Thank you for being a listener. Hey, what are we talking about today? We're talking about the economy and how our customers need you now more than ever. Hey, once again, I say thank you for making this the 300th episode of the Sales Hunter podcast. The show begins now.
You're listening to the Sales Hunter podcast with Mark Hunter, where the focus is to help you as a sales leader sell with confidence and integrity. And now here's your host.
Welcome to a very special event that I'm doing. We're going to be talking right now about the economy. The economy is doing some strange things. And how do we remain relevant? Customers need us now more than ever. Basically, you might say it's how do we sell in a tariff environment? Because that's what we have right now. We have a tariff environment. And I'm going to break down for you. I'm going to share with you strategies and ideas. Some of them come right from COVID, lessons we learned in COVID. And others were lessons that we learned back in, I'm going to say it, the Great Recession, 08, 09. And I've updated them, played them around, and I want to share them with you because, again, we are in new territory, new space that we're not quite sure what the end game is going to look like. But remember this, in the state of uncertainty, customers need us now more than ever. You see, here's the situation. Anyone can lead when times are good. Anyone can sell when inbound drives sales. But right now, that's not probably the case. Right now, it takes a real leader, a real salesperson to make it happen in the environment we're in. Because for some of you in some industries, you may be dealing with inbound. That's great because of the uncertainty and people are trying to rush place orders. That's fine. But just as fast as that gets turned on, it can get turned off. This is the whole key thing that I'm telling salespeople. You have to remain flexible, yet focused. Flexible, yet focused. What do I mean? Flexible, because the marketplace is going to change very quickly. And one day you can be going down the stream looking at these types of customers. Tomorrow you can be going down looking at another set of customers. But here's the situation. You have to be serious and focused. And what does this mean? First of all, don't try to engage yourself or involve yourself or think you can impact things that are outside of your control. The tariffs and all of these issues are outside of our control. All we can deal with is what is inside our control. And that's where we're going to focus our time here today. See, your customers need you now more than ever. Now, what this means though is don't think now is the time to change your ICP, your ideal customer profile. You might be saying, Mark, some of my customers are going to get just whacked because of tariffs, because of supply chains and so forth. And I need to find a new market to sell into. No, don't. Resist this. This is not the time for you to go changing your ideal market you sell into, your ICP. Here's why. You have to become the expert. Now more than ever, you have to be absolutely seen as the one who has all of the information, all of the insights. Because if you don't, you just become a vendor. So don't chase the shiny object. Don't chase, again, I remember during COVID, there were people who said, I'm going to get out of the hospitality industry. And look, hospitality industry about 12 months later came roaring back. And those who left it never got a chance. So stay in your space. Remember, the situation we're in is not going to remain permanent. I never like talking negative, but bear markets, stock market, when it's down 20% from its peak, historically, they never last longer than 6 to 8 months. 6 to 8 months. That means even before the end of the year, if that's what we're in right now. Now, again, I'm not a negative person. I'm an optimist. I want you to see the optimistic approach because this is what your customers need from you. Your customer is relying on you. And this also means that new customers are relying on you because here's what you're going to find. You're going to find right now, because of the uncertainty and the questions customers have, more customers are going to be doing online searches today, now, more than ever. They really are. They really are. So you got to be careful as to what is the online messaging saying about you. This is why I say stay in your space. Become the absolute expert. You have to be seen as the one who has the knowledge. This means you need to be increasing your knowledge base. I'm going to challenge everybody. You have to be spending another 10 to 15 minutes a day learning about your industry, learning about everything out there. And what I mean learn about that, learn about the supply chain. The supply chain. I'm going to talk about this a lot. You got to go upstream and you got to go downstream. You can't just go one way or the other. You got to go upstream. Where is my materials? Where are my products being sourced from? And what are alternate means? What are alternate places? I got to be going as far upstream, right back to raw material, to the commodity as possible. I got to be going downstream because again, you're selling or what your customers might be selling, how does it impact their customers? You have got to be seen as the person who has insights because your customers are probably too busy. So if you can come in and help them understand the supply chain, you're gonna be the one. What does this mean? It means bring your customer solutions. Don't wallow in the misery. Don't wallow in the misery. Bring them success stories. Bring them success stories that you're seeing other companies doing. They may not be exactly in your ICP or your industry, but bring them success stories. Help them understand that there are strategies that they can use and do to increase their probability of success. Okay, let's dig into this. Let's talk about the supply chain. Let's get really down and get very prescriptive. Then I'm going to share with you prescriptive things that you need to do from your own sales process. Okay, so I'm going to break this down into three pieces because one, supply chain, two, prescriptive in terms of your own sales process, and three, kind of the end game where we think this is going. Here's the thing. I want you to be looking for product shortages. Watch for product shortages. Remember during COVID, we had a complete disruption of supply chain. I'm going to use toilet paper as the example. Toilet paper consumption never increased. I hate to be kind of blunt, but toilet paper consumption never increased. But the sourcing of it, in other words, the manufacturing of it and how we bought it, changed dramatically. Remember all the toilet paper shortages? Remember all that? Yeah. You see, overall consumption had changed, but the sourcing. We have to be helping our customers look and identify and find new suppliers. There may be alternate products. Here's the whole thing. We have to be prepared to be able to respond with tariff or without tariff. And you're going to be most advantage. You're going to demonstrate the most advantage to your customers if you can do just that. Again, toilet paper, classic example. Another piece, transit times. Transit times are going to change dramatically because supply sources are going to change. Now, you may go upstream and you may be selling a product that gets assembled somewhere else. Well, here's the thing. Maybe your supplier can sell you stuff in which you in turn resell. But the components that go into that, you've got to be able to break down all of your products and all of your customers' products to understand exactly what is the source of origination and what are alternate sources. Because again, what's going to happen is there's going to be a disruption in terms of transit time. Now, this is also going to impact in terms of traditional sources of inventory. You and your company may have always been able to rely on a certain supplier, always having inventory, always being ready. That inventory system may not be there because here's what I find. As soon as things start to go wonky, there may be a big giant customer that comes in and swoops in and places a big giant order. And what was inventory today is not there tomorrow. Inventory availability systems during this period of time is never good. You can never count on it. You got to be absolutely careful. I learned this very much the hard way years ago when I used to deal with Walmart. Because again, Walmart would come in, swoop in, place a giant order, and it would suck the inventory out for their customers. You've got to be careful on that. Again, so what I'm talking about, understand supply chain, where all the components are sourced from, countries of origination, manufacturers, etc. 2, understand transit times because transit times are going to change. And then 3, understand traditional sources of inventory. Because if you don't, you're going to get caught short. Now, here's something very interesting. You and your products might be fine, but your customer may have other products that aren't fine. If you can become the source, if you can become the expert for them, helping them navigate that, they're going to reward you. This is why I say you've got to zero in and understand your industry. What does this mean? This means very simply that you've always got to have backup plans. You've always got to have backup plans, but here's where backup plans start to go awry. And you're going to see this. You're going to hear about this a lot. Customer may say, I'm able to get this material from over here, so I don't need it from you, or I can get it from this country, or whatever. Here's the situation. What's the quality? What's the tech? What are the performance specs? Because again, many times they're going to vary. And again, depending on what you sell or depending on what your customers sell, changing performance specs, changing technical specs, changing quality may very much impact this. So we run the risk of having customers being in a total state of disarray. And you yourself might be in a total state of disarray because now you're having to sell product that your company's sourcing that doesn't quite meet the same performance or tech specs. If that's the case, be upfront with your customers. You have to be upfront. Right now, more than ever, you have to over-communicate with your customers. Over-communicate. Can't stress this enough. This also means not just over-communicating with your existing customers, but with old customers and with new customers. You see, what I found is this. During these difficult times, same thing happened during COVID. Those who go beyond the sale, to become the go-to person is the one who absolutely is going to win the day. Because you're going to create a level of loyalty with your customers that they are not going to be able to get from anyone else out there. Yeah. So when you increase your level of communication and sharing with them insights about their customers, sharing with them, it's amazing at what's going to happen. Now, here's a couple things that I really want to play about. And that is, I want to talk about how do we navigate our sales process? And what is that going to look like? First of all, don't think for a moment that you can stop building your network. You got to build your network more than ever. That means people talking to people. And you got to be the best source of referrals. That means you got to be given referrals. I found that the more referrals I give, the more referrals I get. Double down on the number of referrals that you're giving. Create a small group. I'm in a small mastermind group. There's 5 other people in this, and we exchange leads all the time. Absolutely important. You also need to look at your pipeline. Now, traditionally, I've always said that your pipeline should be about a 3.5x. In other words, if you have a quarterly sales cycle, in other words, it takes about 3 months to close a deal, you need to have about 3.5 times that monthly volume in your pipeline. Because if you close about a 30%, you'll make your number. The number's changed. It's now a 6x. It's now a 6x size your pipe because there's so much uncertainty with customers. Now, what does this do? This means you've got more deals you got to be juggling. This means you've got more contacts. This is going to have you be relying on your CRM system more than ever, but you've got to. The other piece that happens, and this is just now going to magnify the problem, the number of decision makers in each company, with each customer, has increased by another 50% just in the last year. If you normally had 2 decision makers, 2 people that kind of had to sign off on a deal, it's going to go to 4. So now I'm suddenly dealing with instead of 3.5x my pipe, a 6x pipe. And oh, by the way, now I have to have 4 contacts instead of 2. And now there's a third one in that it may take 2 quarters to close a deal instead of 1 quarter. Whoa. You see what's happening? Your need for organizational skills has never been greater. But here's where I'm going to challenge you and I'm going to push it. This is our opportunity to become better because we're going to become much more efficient, much better in how we're doing all this right now. If we understand, if we can navigate through this, we'll be able to navigate through anything. You're going to need templates that you can leverage. This is why I say stay within your industry, stay within your ICP templates, emails that you can basically rinse and repeat. You got messages, phone messages that you can just keep going with. You've got to. You can't afford to be outside your niche right now. You can't afford, because if you go outside the risk, you're going to be in a problem. You're going to be a problem. Now, here's a couple things that I love doing right now, because customers are going to be hesitant to buy. They're going to buy if they need to fill their supply chain, fill a manufacturing process, et cetera, et cetera. But other than that, they're going to be here. Here's the deal. Sell the risk. Sell the risk. Customers are looking for, more reasons than ever to really not buy. But what you want to do is you want to help them see how they need to avoid the pain. Because if they don't buy, there's a greater risk. If they don't buy, uncertainty. Customers use uncertainty as a reason to not buy. You need to flip this around and show them that uncertainty is the reason to buy. How you do this? You have questions. You have questions that you ask, questions that you pose to your customers that get them thinking. You can tell them there's risk, but they're not going to buy it. But if you get them thinking about it, for instance, in my own business, I deal with a lot of sales VPs, et cetera, and sample questions I'm asking sales leaders include, how much of your business is at risk if the economy shifts downward? See, what am I doing? I'm trying to get you thinking. I'm trying to get you realizing. Now, anybody in sales can probably use this with any one of their customers. Where would you go to replace that business? Again, I use this, but you can use it too in your business. In other words, if there were two major customers that went away because of tariffs, where would you go to replace that business? Here's another one. Is it going to be less painful to replace the lost business than having to make cuts to your business? See, is it less painful to try to go get the business, or am I going to have to make cuts to my business? Because if I make cuts to my business, they become permanent. If I have to cut staff, if I have to shut down production lines, et cetera, that's harder to come back from. So maybe the less risky thing is to go out and try to find that business. Find that lost business. Here's another one. How much of your business comes to you via existing customers? And how confident are you they won't have any issues? And again, what you're trying to do is you're trying to get customers to identify that there could easily be risk, and you need to be mindful of that. You need to be absolutely careful of this. Because again, what you're doing is you're helping companies navigate through this. Here's a simple piece that I say keep in mind. Keep things simple. Break things down into smaller pieces with smaller price tags. In other words, make it very easy for the customer to say yes. And make sure that you've got customer examples of success you can share with them. Customers buy if they feel others are doing the same thing. It's very natural. But customers don't want to hang out there if they feel they're the only person. So I'm going to challenge you right away. Make sure that you've got examples of how, I was talking to another company and they did the same thing. They said, no, we can't really do this, but we can do this. Share with them examples. And simply, speed sells now more than ever. Now, I want to break down for you, and I want to share with you critical piece around pricing. Pricing. This is absolutely critical. With tariffs come the real potential of some significant price increases that some of you may have to take. So let me walk through when and how much, because what it comes down to is you're balancing three things. You are balancing three things. Now, what I'm going to challenge you is I'm going to say these three things, but don't think that you can try to maximize all three. You can't. You cannot maximize all three. You need to pick one. The three things are market share, margin, customer loyalty. In other words, market share. You're going to use this time to grow market share. Great. Or hold on to market share, we'll say. 2, I need to protect my margins as a company. Or 3, I need to ensure customer loyalty. Okay. Now, I can't do all three. Let's walk through them. Okay. Market share. If your customers, if your competitors have to raise price, and you can take costs out someplace else, then don't raise them and grow share. Think about that. If you're in a commodity type situation and you have competitors that you know have to increase their price, and you can find ways to take some costs out of the system, do it to offset decreased margin, to protect what margin you can do. And you can use that to grow share. This is a very good strategy if you're in a market that once you get a customer to move to you, they stay with you. In other words, once they get you set up in their system, yeah, they don't want to change. They don't want to change vendors again. They're going to stay with you. So if you're in that type of a situation, try to go with that strategy, or go with that strategy if you feel this is only going to be temporary and we're going to work through this and we're going to figure it out. Do it to grab those customers right now. Now, margin. If you're constrained and need cash, you got to raise your prices. You've got to raise your prices, but be upfront with your customer, saying why you're doing it, but don't create a surcharge. A number of years ago, maybe 10 or 15 years ago, we had this energy crisis, and a lot of companies put in place surcharges, energy surcharges, because it was easy. It was easy to sell. The problem is this: as soon as energy prices came down, customers were absolutely demanding it come down. And problem is, energy prices come down, go back up, come down, go back up. It became too much of a variable. So what I'm recommending is this: don't put it out there as a tariff surcharge. Put it right into the base price, but tell the customer this is why you're doing it. This allows you to be in control and allows you to have more flexibility ongoing if tariff rates change, if your suppliers change, whatever it might be. Third piece, customer loyalty. This is where you're going to keep prices the same for your best customers. Your best customer out there, you're going to keep that price the same, but you're going to raise them for new customers or non-optimal ones. So if you have a couple of dominant customers and you know that if you lose them, you're toast, then you may say customer loyalty is the strategy I need to go with. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to maintain price at X, and I'm going to go with a higher price for non-optimal customers, smaller ones, and new customers. Now, there's a cost averaging strategy I got to have there, but it's a way for you to do customer loyalty. See, so there are three ways to manage this whole price issue. And in fact, it's funny because I talk about it in my first book, A Mind for Sales, talking about maximizing price. You can't do all three. Again, market share, margin, or customer loyalty. If you try to maximize, you're not going to do any of them. Here's the situation. And this is going to, you may say, Mark, this sounds a little counter to what you just shared regarding price. And that is this: you need to play the long game. Play the long game. Don't allow yourself to make a short-sighted decision that you're going to regret later on. In the midst of a fire, everything looks like it's on fire, but it's not. In the midst of a challenging time, everything looks like it's challenging, but it's not. And it's amazing at how quickly things can change. You need to play the long game. And that means remaining optimistic, because we will come out of it. Every downturn is an opportunity for us to become better. Because here's what happens. We become more efficient. We become more streamlined. We become more outbound focused. What you're going to find is during this period, there may be some elements, cost structures that you change. You know what? That was fluff. I don't need this anymore. I can cut it out. You're going to make that change. And it's going to make you more efficient. It's going to make you more efficient in your time. And it's going to make you more efficient in your communication. Because again, what we're talking about here are several significant changes. The biggest of which is you moving your pipeline from a 3.5x to a 6x and realizing that there's 50% more decision makers. So more than ever, you've got to stay focused. Stay in your ICP, stay in your industry. And what does that mean? You become the expert, because when you become the expert, you're going to be able to rinse and repeat better, faster to all those people in that space. Supply chain, going to be absolutely wonky, absolutely all over the place. Study it, learn it. Upstream, downstream. Pricing, I went through the three options. You can't do all three. It's either market share, margin, or customer loyalty. At the end of the day, play the long game. Be an optimist. Hey, do me a favor. I want you to stay in touch with me. However you're checking this out right now, whether you're checking it out as a podcast, a video, on LinkedIn, however, stay in touch, because I'm going to be sharing more insights like this on a regular basis, because we're going to go through this together. And my commitment is to help you win, be more successful. And you'll be more successful when you help your customers see and achieve what they didn't think was possible. I'm Mark Hunter, the Sales Hunter. Great selling.